Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Call the meeting the order. Wow, that's starting off slowly. We'll call the meeting to order of Tuesday, September 12th of the Board of Selectmen. So we'll begin the meeting with the with announcements as we normally do. Marlene, did you have any? I have a few, but I didn't know if there was anything that you had separate.
There isn't
Okay.
anything separately, no.
All right, so we'll ask again tonight, like we do at every meeting, if there's people interested in being on the Housing Committee to work with the Planning Board and other departments. It's a 5-member board, and it's just looking to assist us with the housing needs in the community and to look at availability. Also, I have a few things on behalf of the schools. So September 13th, Smith Academy will have their open house starting at 6 o'clock. September 14th, the elementary school will have their open house at 6 o'clock. And on September 27th at 6 o'clock at the Hatfield Elementary School, they'll be hosting, along with HEF, the Hatfield Education Foundation, and CPAC, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, a presentation of an award-winning documentary on project-based learning entitled Most Likely to Succeed. So and there'll be a discussion following that on different project-based initiatives to be explored within the school system. So whether you have children in the school system or not, everyone's certainly invited to be part of the conversation. Once again, that's on September 27th at 6 p.m. at the elementary school. On November 5th, Men Who Cook will be back on behalf of STARS. That will return to Smith Academy. There's more information to follow on that. So that's it from a school perspective. And also, we just wanted to remind our residents that we do have a disposal canister at the police department should you have the need to dispose of expired or old drugs or anything of that nature that you want to get rid of safely. So that canister is behind us at in the police department, in the foyer, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So, Cindy, did you have anything you wanted to?
Actually, I'd like to add one, sure.
Oh.
Within the last month, the police department also wanted everyone to know that they have set up their own website, a new one. They're not just on the Town of Hatfield website. They've also set up one. You can go to hatfieldpolicedepartment.org, and it gives everyone a way to contact an individual officer. They have all their contact information, the town numbers, plus all their email addresses. So if you've been working with someone or had an incident and needed a question individually, they can get back to you faster instead of waiting until they come in again. So it's hatfieldpolice.org, and you can reach them there. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. Did you have anything else?
No.
Ed, did you have anything? Okay. So that's all the announcements we had. Is there anybody here for public forum? Yes, sir.
My name is John Pease, 2 North Hatfield Road. First, I'd like to thank Phil, as I did last week, for helping the town's Historical Society and the Historical Commission in moving our 1926 Ford tractor in the parade that the 3-county fair had sponsored. And there was something like 138 tractors all told. I think there was 2 that did not run, but it was a well-received parade, and I'd like to thank Phil and the men that helped move the tractor out and so forth like that, and for upcoming parades and so forth for the towns that celebrate, coming up. I wish to, ask permission again from Phil and the boys that they did a good job. Again, thank you. But also, I'd like to bring up about yesterday, the 9/11. Remembrance. There was nothing in town, and I'm just wondering if something can be done. I know I asked Marlene a while back about the tree that was planted 15 years ago, and everything like that, and just to maybe put it on the memorial list when it comes Memorial Day weekend to commemorate that tree and so forth, and just to, pay our respects. I don't know if there's people in town now that were physically connected. 15, 16 years ago, Hatfield was maybe kind of isolated from that, but maybe there's people now living in town. But I know the schools definitely had their flags down, but the town hall did not. I'd just like to, mention that. And again, hoping nothing ever comes again like what happened that day. Again, because Mr. Jaworski, Ms. Doty, you were part of, the first responders that day. Everybody was on edge back, back in 2001. Again, I hope it never happens again. Again, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. And John?
Yes.
John, also, I know Marlene has something about Sunderland's 300th anniversary is coming up, and they were looking for participants, so I don't know if the tractor, would be something with that. But what a great idea for 9/11. Thank you very much.
Is anybody else here for public forum? Okay. In our packet, we have some minutes from August 2nd that need to be approved. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second. So the motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion or clarifications or? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So it's 20 of 6, and we have a 5:45 public hearing on the agenda. So we've got to wait about 5 minutes unless there's something we want to go through. Good evening. So Phil, under your report, topic number 5, is that?
In regards to the water transmission
Yeah.
main?
Yeah.
Okay, so the update on the water transmission main is that we're still waiting for the state's approval for our bridge, our suspended bridge to hold that utility. All the permits are in place, it's just a matter of them putting their stamp on it. So I did have a conversation last week with our consulting engineer, Mike Ohl from Comprehensive Environmental, and told him to proceed with the bid, putting the bid out, regardless of stamping that approval, because we really want to see what the prices are going to come in at. I don't want to wait any longer to put that bid out, because if we wait, it's just going to go up. But the bridge design has already been approved once by Mass DOT, so I don't see them holding us to the fire for anything about it. It's just that there's a little few people over there and they just want to, look at it. So I told them to put the bid out to see where we are, what we're going to do. I don't see construction happening this year. I think it's going to happen in the spring because they have to go right up Chestnut Street, so there's no sense in tearing it up now.
Do we have an idea about how long? I mean, I know
It shouldn't be too long. The biggest part of that's going to be off the road, building the bridge. Well, the bridge will be built off-site, but setting the bridge over,
Right.
on some piers there.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it's just straight go. I mean, there's nothing to go on there or anything. I mean, I don't anticipate a long process unless the groundwater's up when they decide to do it. In that stretch, it's wet there, so.
Right.
But we'll see.
So the road would remain open? Is that,
The road will be one lane, yes,
okay,
yes.
That's a bonus. Yeah. So
Well, the
having
only
both
place it
sides.
might not be one lane is however they come out of by the bridge, the existing Chestnut
Right.
Street Bridge. It's going to be off to the side of it, but when they come back across, I don't know how much impact that's going to have right in that area. But the rest of the roadway should be open for one lane.
And I would imagine we'd use the, if we knew it was going to be both lanes for any given time, we'd use the
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
robocall to just let
Yeah.
people know. Otherwise,
You know,
we'll assume that at least
I
one
mean,
lane.
last
is
time,
passing.
we worked with Mass DOT, we had the big billboards and all, the sign, and we put it out on the robo.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well.
Okay, great. Anything else you need to report on, or any questions?
not on that one, no.
No, just we were talking about update on projects and stuff. I know the steps is like a next thing. You're still waiting for bids
Yeah,
on that, right?
I did happen to finally meet with Corpita, who is a stone guy, and he said that in order for them to cut the granite shop to cut the granite steps, we need shop drawings, which makes sense. So when Kyle and I have been working on a couple people that do that type of thing, it's not a very expensive process, but it has to be done. When you go into the shop to cut the granite, here's the measurements, because it has to match exactly what's out there. Because it's the radius steps. If it was just regular steps, it'd be a different story, but now we're talking about that radius, so. But that shouldn't take long. I mean, it's just a couple measurements, and they can just put it on pen to the paper, and we'll have it done.
5:45, so you're posted,
Thanks,
right?
Ray. Yeah, we'll come back, in case anybody has any questions. All right. Are you here for the?
Blackbirch Vineyard?
Yes, oh,
Yes.
great.
Yes, I'm Michelle. I'm the other owner.
Oh, okay.
So-
Hi, Michelle.
Right up
And
to the
Mr.
front.
Modesto is the manager?
Yes.
On record, will he be here?
No, he's unable to attend.
Are you an officer?
Yes, I am. I'm an owner and member of the LLC.
Manager should be here. but-
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So just to make it all kind of official, so I'll call the meeting, we're having an open hearing Tuesday, September 12th at 5:45 at Memorial Town Hall to consider a winery pouring license request from Black Birch Valley LLC. Okay. So this is where we would ask for public comments. If there's anybody that had anything to say regarding the applicant and the application for that license? Is that why you're here, ma'am? Or no? Oh, okay. Cindy or Ed, do you have any questions or need any clarification?
I think it's neat. I think it's a nice thing. I was just wondering what your future plans are. Are you planning on bands or stuff like that, or what are you planning on doing?
We have private events. We're not doing any large events per se, no real like live music. I mean, we have a Crush Festival scheduled in October. We might have some musicians there, and some food trucks, but that's the only large event we're having. All the other ones are private events, where they're ticketed and, just, like a release party of a new wine that we have, and our wine club members pickup party. So nothing huge or wildly crazy.
So this does say it's wine produced on the premises to be consumed on the premises.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Ed? Comments or questions?
I don't have any
Oh.
comments. I don't see any opposition. Right
No.
now, there's nobody here that's voicing any
Concerns.
opposition to this. And it sounds like it's a nice little business, so I don't have any more discussion.
Okay. Cindy, did you have anything? you wanted-
No, I asked them earlier, I just want to know if the planning board and the zoning was all in place, and it was, so I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, great. And so, welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
And we've been well received in Hatfield, so thank you too.
Well, that's great. And I think it's the smaller businesses oftentimes, they just bring a different feel, and certainly the winery does, so we're glad you're here. I agree with Ed and Cindy. We're glad you're here. There's nobody in the audience that has raised a concern or called any of us or contacted us, so I don't see any reason why we should make a motion to grant an on-premise farm winery pouring license to Black Birch Vineyard LLC, 108 Straits Road, North Hatfield, Mass., subject to approval by the ABCC, which is the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. So if there's a second to that?
We first got to make a motion, right?
Well, that was, I
Okay,
made,
so I'll
yeah,
second the
okay.
motion, that's
And
fine.
yeah, and then I read the whole thing, so I
Okay,
figure we'll
that's
call
great,
that my
yeah,
motion.
okay, you got it.
Ed seconded it, and is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, hearing's closed at 5:50 PM. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have, I was asked, we'd had to file for a new application. We had originally thought it was a transfer.
Right.
So-
I'll need that. And do you have the abutters cards back in the list, the
I-
certified list of abutters?
No, I do not have that, but I have a check for the
Okay.
two.
I have the invoice. We can.
Okay.
But I will need the abutters list and the certified cards.
Okay.
But we'll take the check.
I thought you said
I'm-
you was gonna actually have a sample.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I know, that's a big purse. I was hoping there's all sorts of little. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here, the invoice. Great. Yes, yep, and this was that, so let me write this out for you. I need my glasses too. Yes, I do, thanks. Okay, okay. So what cards are you talking about?
Okay, so next thing on the agenda, we're going to, under the town administrator's report, we'll be speaking to topic number 4, which is the committee appointments. Marlene, if you
Capital
would.
Planning Improvement Committee, the at-large appointment that the board had actually reappointed Ty Lorenzo
Right.
back in the springtime, and he's no longer living in town, he's relocated.
Okay.
So I'm asking the board to rescind that vote, so then we can post that.
We'll
that
okay, I was
notice.
going to ask if there, okay, so
And if
we'll.
anybody's interested in serving
Sure.
on the capital, this is an at-large.
Right, so this is
appointment.
this is an at-large seat for the Capital Improvement Committee, which, brings forward the capital projects at town meeting and has the discussions with their fellow board members ahead of time, obviously, to come up with a plan for town meeting. So there's always is it a single resident, or are there two, and we already
There are
made it?
two at
There's
large.
two, so one person's already been appointed and will remain on, and this is to fill the vacancy by Ty Lorenzo. So if we could have a vote to rescind the appointment of Ty Lorenzo,
I'll make a motion to rescind the vote of Tyler Lorenzo.
since he's no longer living in town. Is there a second to
I'll
that?
second that.
Is any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so if you are interested, please let Marlene know if you'd like to be on that committee. Okay. The 350th Anniversary Steering Committee appointments.
Yes, you have a list of those individuals that would request to be appointed to the steering committee.
Okay. You want me, well, so, just so the townspeople are aware, so we have asked that a steering committee be formed. These people have shown an interest since the day we asked that question, months and months and months ago.
So we've been talking about that, yeah.
But that's not to say we don't want as much town involvement as possible to be part of this celebration. That's what's going to make it successful. We just needed a small group of folks to sort of lead the way. So the town of Hatfield 350th Anniversary Steering Committee appointments, if there's a motion to do so, would be Lori Banis, Bobby Betzold, Ed Lesko, Sharon Nicholas, Michael Poshik, and Diana Zinal. And then there'll be a representative of the Board of Selectmen alternating for those meetings, just, to be part of it. So, is there a motion for
I'll
those
make a
appointments?
motion to appoint these to the 350th anniversary.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to add that there were a number of other individuals that have expressed interest that were a part of this original list.
Yes.
Those individuals are interested in supporting the steering committee in another capacity, the parade committee, but certainly we could still use more people.
Absolutely. Well, there's going to be more than one event for this whole thing, and it's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of people's efforts and a lot of time. So if you have a particular focus, if you're into the music, maybe sign up for the music, the parades, as Marlene said, and whatever other events might be part of this. So really need as much
I think
involvement
I
as
always
possible.
volunteered you for the parade, I believe. You weren't
Got a
there,
little,
so.
oh, thanks.
Figured I'd
Got a
volunteer.
little parade experience in the background. That's-
Yeah, because you'll have your steering committee and then you'll have subcommittees.
Correct.
There'll be
Right.
numerous, hopefully numerous subcommittees, like, so that they can do a fireman's muster, they can do different functions, a block dance maybe, whatever. That's some of the discussion right now. So we have a bunch of subcommittees thinking about, we just want more people.
Go,
to,
Ed, go.
Get
Right?
involved and
Absolutely. With
contact
that
the steering
with that
committee.
same enthusiasm. Absolutely. That's great. Well, that's, to
Just
make
like the old
to
days.
make some
Bring it all
fun.
back,
Yeah,
right.
there you go. All right, thank you, Marlene. So it's 6 o'clock. Do you need a few more minutes? Or do you have your board's here or your committee's here? All right, so if I could ask you to come forward, just simply so the camera can kind of see you.
I have some documents here.
So what we have before us is we're going to have a conversation regarding community gardens thank you, Steph, on Billings Way.
Thank you.
And so the folks that are coming forward now, we're going to have a discussion regarding the use, and it's part of community gardens and the agricultural
You stand
committee.
here, so I already can.
If you can use that easel in the back if you'd like to display that, and bring that right up here.
Do you need help? Okay.
I'll get
So
it.
yeah, we're here as the Hatfield Community Garden Steering Committee, and we originated from a meeting last April sponsored by the Agricultural Commission. My name is Stephanie Slish. I live on Bridge Street, first of all. And then I also have Hildy Osley and Ginny Risk with me.
Great.
We're 3 of the 6 members that have formed the steering committee for the community gardens. Yeah, we started from the Agricultural Commission attached to the census last year. They attached a survey collecting information from residents that may be interested in having a community garden plot if there were such a program. And they got over 50 responses back from the survey. And so they invited everyone to a meeting in April. And that's where we met Pat James. She's the Community Garden and Food Access Manager at Grow Food Northampton, which Northampton has 2 successful community gardens. The Grow Food Northampton one has a little more funding behind it, and she has the paid position or helping manage that. But she gave us a lot of insight and told us really that we needed a core group of people to really take on leadership roles in getting this off the ground. Because a lot of the people who originally signed up are interested in a plot, but may not be interested in the nitty-gritty stuff that we've been working on since April. So from that meeting, about 15 showed up. I think it was around 15 showed up to that meeting in April. From there was around 10 people who said that they'd be interested in leading this. And from there, it's whittled down to a core group of 6 with 3 of us here today. And so we've been meeting twice, every other week, basically, since April. On Mondays at the Hatfield Elementary Community Room from 5:45 to 7, just so anyone knows if they're interested and want to be a part of this. We're always recruiting just like you are for the 300 grade. I'm sure we're doing lots of recruiting around. Okay, then also after, do all you aware what a community garden is? Should I give a little background on that for people who maybe don't know?
Well, that might not be a bad idea, just.
Yeah, so it's
for
basically
residents.
ideally it's town-owned piece of land that then you, for a very nominal fee, like $20 a year, you can rent plots. Some of our proposed here. And you maintain it over the year. You get to use shared tools, knowledge, and water, and you all get to work together in building this community garden. And there's rules, and it's really building community as well as growing things. We also would like to grow it organically, using not necessarily certified organic, but using organic practices that help build the soil instead of deplete it. And that we've also put together some bylaws and that we're just starting to work on that we'll hone in on this coming fall to get ready for spring 2018 growing season. So the land that we're looking at, that's shown here on this map, it's down on Billings Way. It's currently, nothing has grown on it this past year, and I don't know if anything grew on it last year, they said. But it has been rented to some farmers in the past. It was under the auspices of the Cemetery Commission, under control of the Cemetery Commission, because the idea is that the cemetery from behind the Congregational Church would expand into that piece of that property. However, if you go and take a look down there, there's this grassy area that we've spoken to Joe LaValle with, that he says this is like the 20-year plan, is just this little buffer here. It doesn't even touch the, how many acres? 4, just over 4 acres, that's all here, back here. So this, a couple months ago, the Cemetery Commission voted to give permission to this piece of property back here to the Agriculture Commission. And as we are working under the Agriculture Commission, the point is for us to be able to use this land for our community garden. And so now we're kind of coming to you for your permission and your granting and your blessing for us as we move along with outreach and marketing for the hopes of growing starting to grow in 2018 season. We've reached out to the elementary and high school principals and the food service director who showed interest. Again, some of the issues though with over the summer is the students aren't in school necessarily to help grow, but there's a lot of opportunity to create we're open to anything and are willing to come with some really cool ideas, like maybe the PTO wants to sponsor some or something, because we're keeping it open to all Hatfield residents and then families who have children who go to Hatfield schools, because we see it'd be a great opportunity, picking up your kids at the elementary school and stopping at the community garden after. We also reached out to the Council on Aging, the DPW, the police department, as well as neighbors to the project, like the library, Congregational Church, Lions Club, Harrison Bardwell. And given his passion for farming, he's offered to help us help maintain the field and plow it, as well as Tom Petson of the Agricultural Commission to help us get it cover cropped for the fall. They've been very helpful in getting us cover cropped and ready to go, so we're ready to grow next spring. However, as you can see, we don't anticipate using all 4+ acres right off the bat. And we started our project. This is just a working document. This is something we would like to see. We hopefully would get 20. Our goal, which we'd like to circle around, is probably around 20 or so, 20 to 30.
It'll start small. We had 50 respondents. Right here, we're showing 40 full-size plots and 8 half-size plots, but that's just tentative. Sometime in the winter, we'll ask people to register, and we'll have a certain number of initial registrants, and that'll give us a better idea of how many we need. And we'll have some more available in the spring.
And part of the reason why we lined it up this way is because of the water line, and we'd like to make it close to wherever the water spigot is going to be, which the DPW has offered their services to help put it in a water spigot, because I guess the water, because going down to the pavilion, the water line goes along that land there. And so that's why we built where we'll start the plots wherever the water spigot is, and then go out that way from there. And then based on, the Agriculture Commission is looking for someone to potentially grow something on this land for next year, because we obviously can't, like I said, we're not going to be using all of it. But however, it needs to meet certain criteria, like it has to be grown organically. And I don't know if they found someone yet, but it was a little bit of a challenge to try to find someone in town to do that.
So you're referring to, for those parts, for a farmer, or larger,
plots,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
It
the
is to be done
larger
as
part.
one larger plot, 2 smaller
Yeah, yeah,
plots.
got it.
It is a smallish piece of land,
Yep.
but it's something that, maybe a farm incubator, which is something that Agricultural Commission kind of responded to something
Or a
like that.
project.
Or a project,
Yeah.
right.
An agricultural student or somebody.
Who's interested in organic land.
Yeah. In that little opening to the bottom left, is that how they would get in and out? Should they go back?
Right of way.
And we were given permission by this cemetery commission to,
Yep.
we were able to park on this grass buffer.
Most of the year, we'll be able to use the school parking as well,
Mhm,
Yeah,
whenever they're not in session.
right.
and yeah, that's basically what we have for now, and just like I said, with your blessing and being part of the town's, getting adopted into the town's governing body as a committee or something like that, is what we'd like to let you know what we've been working on, just as we move forward in recruiting and marketing.
Well, I do want to say, I want to commend you and your committee. You look like you've done a very impressive job putting this all together. I know a few months ago, the only concern was from the Lions Club as far as if they had the event for the bonfire parking, and apparently you got that all worked out with them, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, the agriculture
Yeah,
commission
alright.
is taking on the owning of the land and the relationship, and they wanted us to focus on getting this off the ground, yeah.
Anyways, I want to say thank you for all your time and effort into this. I think it's great, so I have no problem giving you my blessing.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. One of them was going to be on the water, which you answered. I noticed you had said it was for Hatfield residents and the schools. But in the letter we had received, it says is to give preference to Hatfield residents and families with connections to schools. So you're looking to bring in out-of-town people to
I don't, like,
be using it
that's like
too?
if that's something that will sway, like, we're open to conversation around that. I mean, there's waiting lists in the Northampton Community Gardens, and I don't anticipate us, like, marketing to those people. And also, we're not gonna try and bite off more than we can chew our first year anyway, but that's,
Yeah.
Is that a
Because my-
concern,
Yeah.
or how?
Yeah, I'd like more discussion if it was, and I think, like you said, start with Hatfield residents and see how that's go. I know you, like, school will be out, but you, you still have the rec program down there all summer too. So there's a lot of children down in that whole area, and then using the playground and everything else. And I'm just concerned, because I know, like in Amherst, they've had a number of problems down there. There are a lot of police calls down there, people start fighting, your squash is growing here, you know what I mean? And that kind of things, and also problems with people walking their dogs through it.
we actually
You know
have,
what I mean?
our
So
rule
that's
that we
a-
have in their first draft,
Make
kind
sure
of
there's no problems
bylaws is
first.
no dogs. I mean, we've tossed that around because a lot of us have dogs, and we'd love to be able to bring them down there when we're working on it, but logistically, I mean, yeah, we just didn't want to have to deal with any of those issues that arise with that. And we think it would, I don't know if it would, we thought it would enhance kind of the area of, if children were around, because, a lot of community gardens have, picnic tables or like opportunities for people to take a look at the garden and we like the location because it does put it on display for the community in that way.
It's right across the street from the elementary
I knew
school.
where it was, yeah, they wanted to put a field hockey field there years
It's a
ago.
good opportunity for them to get involved in learning about
Right.
where food comes from and so forth. And so we don't want to exclude children, we want to make it safe for children.
Yeah, that sounds good. Just thinking about, you said that Harrison said he'd plow it and everything. I don't know, is there any way that in payment for plowing, he could use that land, maybe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Harrison, if he's going to be volunteering his time, maybe something could be worked out with him.
Yeah, we talked to him
To,
about.
that he could use it, the cover crop if it's hay or whatever or something.
Yeah, we talked to him
voluntary.
about that, and he's not open right now to grow something organic on that land. But he sees it as something maybe he would look into in the future.
Thank you for all your work and good luck.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
But the Petsons have been quite generous in their time of plowing.
Nice, very good.
Yeah, we'll be
Helping
looking
out
for
with that.
community sponsors soon as well, in the fall as well.
So I have to ask the question. So first off, I think it's a great program. But who will pay for things such as the water? Or what is the expectation of who will pay for water have you guys had that conversation as to?
Well, when I spoke with the DPW worker, I brought that up,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, we'll see. He made it seem like he was very willing to help us just put it in the spigot.
Well, I think we are. Part of it is,
I mean, it'd be something.
is somebody going to leave the water, not intentionally, but is the water going to be running for 3 days while it's raining out and nobody knows to go back and needs to?
It's not going to be running while nobody's there.
Yeah, I guess the concern is, everything's normally, it's metered, right? So you know, I think,
And that's something too, that I mentioned that in the phone conversation with Garrett, I believe, and that, you know, maybe we'd evaluate, maybe, I don't anticipate a ton of use, you know, who knows in the first year, but it'd be something we
Right,
could definitely
right.
evaluate as a town and see if like fees need to go up to pay, because we don't know what the
well,
interest.
and I guess that's all I was saying, Steph,
Yeah.
was just, you know, certainly we want to do this as a community and appreciate everything that's happening. You would just have to have those kinds of conversations. I mean, that's part of,
We
Yeah.
would want to kind of be on top of things and be watching out for any possible problems with water running. and-
Well, let's set expectations. So there are only 6 of us. We
Yeah.
plan to start very small, but this will be fairly publicly accessible, right by a road. It's possible that even if we checked every night, that somebody could come by at midnight and turn,
right.
you know, so we're gonna give it our best effort. to
But it's
be on
also
top of it.
similar to the water fountain that's also in the fields, accessible for the kids
But,
and that kind
yeah.
of thing too.
We could have a knob where
Unless we put a lock on it,
shuts off when
which
you
we
take your
could
hand
also
off
talk
it.
about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely open to, and to working with the
Well,
DPW on that too.
so again, I'll ask it a little bit different. So is the expectation is there'd be no charge for the water that's used at that garden?
At this time.
Okay. You
Usually
just
these
got to get it
things
out there
start
and
really
have
small.
the, you know, ask the question. That's, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, that's
These
all.
gardens usually start small
Yeah.
and they grow by word of mouth. I would
We want
be
the community to be
surprised
part
if
of
we
it,
have
you know?
40
Yeah.
plots, but the next year,
Who knows?
we'll grow each year and maybe our sponsorship will grow as well.
And this is, yeah, I'm also anticipating having a conversation in the fall with Garrett. I said I'd remind him, talking about that, putting in that water spigot, and then we'll also have a conversation in the spring before he does it to talk about how many people have signed up and talking about the capacity and of that, so.
Right. And you'd hoped it was organic. Now, if somebody comes in with their mask and starts spraying their whole
There are
plot,
some
are there going to be rules that
Yes.
you don't?
There have been
Yes,
issues
again.
with past other community gardens that have also approached that subject. Ginny's part, actually, a member of one of the
I'm
Northampton
in
community
Emily
gardens.
Grove with Northampton Garden.
So it's been great having her part of the steering committee that has a lot of institutional knowledge and foreseen issues that may come up. It's been helpful, yeah.
We're trying to be realistic about what rules we can realistically enforce.
Yeah.
You know, the bigger places have full-time interns enforcing the rules and so forth. I mean, so we're trying to keep it simple, but obviously something like somebody spraying, we would,
Yes, yeah.
It's all in the spirit of that too. We see it as a learning opportunity too for people and holding workshops and things too, potentially down the road and all of that.
Actually, if that takes off, you could, down the road, you could actually do rain collection
Absolutely.
to help with the watering.
Definitely.
And for now, if they have a meter on it, you could actually see what's being used. And they do make faucets that you take your hand off if the water shuts off. Not like, you know, so, I mean, there's a couple options.
Sure.
Yep. And that's something, yeah, we definitely would be interested in looking into and seeing if we can budget it and, or have someone donate it to the future community garden. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, John.
I represent the Agricultural Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Both Tom Petson and Harrison Bartle have volunteered and have plowed and seeded down with recommendations to UMass Extension Service, a coat of rye and I think field peas. There was a concern about getting radish, some have a long-stemmed radish that would bore down in, but that's a little expensive to plant and so forth. But it does work good in breaking up the hardpan. We've had the field tested for the lime recommendations. Crop production did that, and they bent the rules a little bit as far as their cooperation policy goes and came in with 3 tons of lime. They usually bring a spreader truck in with a 10-ton minimum, and that was the recommendations of 1,000 pounds. So they came in with 1.5 tons and spread it around several weeks ago, so that's incorporated. So the garden should be well off next year, and hopefully with your support.
Sounds great, thank you. It's you know, it's impressive to see what you've already done as far as preparing for it, because that's, that's kind of the key, right? Is preparing it and having the conversations and getting the folks like John and the Petsons and the Bardwells on board to help. So I think it's great. It's an awesome concept, and I hope people are willing to be part of it. So I mean, so I don't know if we actually need a vote or just are okay, but why don't we make a vote and make it official that.
I'll make a motion to say thank you very much.
And move
It's
forward with the
great
Hatfield
project,
Community
and-
Garden.
And I think we move ahead with this.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, yes.
All right, any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You'll
You're
probably see
welcome.
us again when we ramp up.
Good.
recruitment.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is the place to come to have things seen, so, you know,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Phil.
thank you.
Nice work. They've done a good job.
Yeah.
It's all in the preparedness. All right. Where are we? Is the, what time is COA going to be here, Marlene?
They should be coming in any time. Yeah, they should be coming in
Thank you,
any
Chris.
time.
Okay, well,
Was Phil going to speak on the Straits Road water? Because that's what I thought you were asking about when you
Yeah.
asked earlier.
we could ask the question.
And trailer. That's the one I thought you were, when you brought up the water and you gave the Chestnut Street report. I thought you were
Yes,
talking
that was
Straits.
part of it, and then we hit our time limit for the other one. So, so we're going to hear from the COA shortly, I think. But we did have another question for the DPW director regarding, from the agenda, it had to do with some folks on Straits Road looking to perhaps see if there can be water service brought further on the street, not sewer, but just water, I believe, right? So we've got some signatures of a petition of a dozen names or so.
6 residences, yeah.
6
Yeah.
families, 6
6.
houses that
Right.
we're looking. So I don't know, Phil, if you've got.
Sure, I mean, I can speak
Can
on
shed
it.
any
I
light.
mean, they came in last week with a petition, or the week before, I can't remember the exact date. They're looking for a water extension from Straits Road where it ends, I forgot the house number now, but to where, approximately where the dirt part starts. It's about 1,000 feet of water main. There's 6 to 8 residents willing to tie in. Plus, I think there's some extra lots there anyways that would lay a service to the lot, and we might as well do it if we're gonna do it. My feelings to the person that brought the petition in was, that I will go out and estimate the cost of that project and bring it forward to town meeting.
Presently, what is the cost to tie into a water service?
Right
today?
now, it's $500, depending on the pipe size. A regular household is $500
Okay.
to tie in.
To tie into water that's already coming by your home.
Right.
What kind of pipe would they be using for that water main?
It would be ductile iron, same
Okay.
thing we use all over the place, probably 8-inch main, probably an 8-inch main, I would say.
So it's easy to trench and just lay it right
Yeah, I
in
mean,
there?
it's a straight shot up there, I mean, there's already existing water so far up, and then, just tie off of whatever's there and go the rest of the way, that extra 1,000 feet. It's one of the few places that they didn't extend the water to, and I know that, talking to the individuals there, that they have wells, and, wells have failed on that stretch, so, of course, they're concerned about fire protection, which is a legitimate complaint.
Yeah.
Now, when it costs to pay $500 to tie in,
Yep.
what does that include? Does that include somebody digs a trench to their house and puts in a main? Or
No.
what does that include?
The only thing that includes is the tap into our main.
Okay.
That's it. They have to pay for the rest.
They pay for the rest?
The homeowner pays the rest, yep, to run
And-
to the copper into their house.
And all the residents that have come in have committed to saying they
Absolutely.
will?
Yep. Like I said, there's been some well failures up there. The individual that brought the petition forth said, that they put a well in, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, a new well, and, they can't run 2 faucets at the same time, so,
And our capacity is okay for?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we can extend the water there.
Okay, so I'm guessing because it was an agenda item, the petitioners just at least wanted it to be brought forward to the board.
Yes, I told
Have the
them,
conversation, and you can now do,
yeah.
the
You know,
pricing.
it'll come, you know, I will bring it to the capital planning committee.
yeah, well, that's where.
As a
that's
project.
Where it goes, but, yeah. Right,
So when do you think you might have some idea what that cost might be?
I can have it within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Shouldn't be too hard. A few hydrants, some pipe, labor costs.
No, I did notice if people wanted to know that online you have the water map. It actually shows where our connections are.
Yeah.
And that was nice to find it online.
Yeah.
So I see Straits Road is one road that hasn't been included. but
Yeah. Won't go so
town
far,
has.
you know, whether it was dirt road, you know, whether it was dirt years ago when they didn't do it, I don't know, you know. You know, whether it was just farmland that somebody put some houses in and said, well, we're not gonna extend the water main at that time, it was too costly, and just punched wells in. So that's probably was the case.
Well, there's some history there over the years,
I
yes.
can imagine.
And I know another concern was they said the pesticides going on the farm fields that they felt were seeping into their wells too.
Yeah, there is a little, you know, there is quite a bit of agriculture.
That's what happened to Whately. They had all the Timec came
Yeah.
into and they had to put in a water system throughout the whole town. So I can understand their concerns.
yeah, they're legitimate.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern, for sure.
All right, anything else for the DPW director?
No, on the website, we do have a list of possible projects. Do you have any update on any of those projects of where we're at? I mean, you mentioned the steps, and then you said after the steps, painting, and then it was what, King Street?
King Street
raise?
manholes, yep. I
Manholes.
met with the contractor today who's gonna do that project, very small project.
Okay.
And the other one is the Straits Road sewer extension to go from North Hatfield Road to the highway garage. That should be underway hopefully next week,
That one was just parts, waiting for parts,
waiting
right?
for parts, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're in now, so.
And just another thing that was on the list here was the trailer that was donated. Do you want to speak to that, or it just was listed under you? From Stan
That
Shesky.
has the document for the trailer.
Oh,
Right,
it's
they
in the
have it in their
different-
packet.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't know if you wanted to mention, thank you. We get the thank you letter, but
Yeah, that
there was a
very-
trailer donated by J.J. Staniszewski to the
Right.
town, value of $5,700
Yeah,
that
it
the
was
DPW
that was
is
very nice
using,
of
so
him.
thanking
Very nice of
the
him.
Staniszewskis.
Yep. So we'll have to sign that later, yes. Yep. That was a donation to the DPW, so we appreciate it. Sure you'll put it to good use, right, Phil?
Absolutely.
We just sent them, will they be getting a letter of thank you from the town?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Is that the one the tractor was on?
No. No, no.
All right. Well, we're going to keep going unless we see some members come in from the COA.
Cookies out there, I saw.
Well, you know, they should come in so we know they're here, so. Oh. Well, that answers that question
That's
since
why.
it's only 6:25.
You want me to use time? I'll mention that Tony Listowski from the DPW is working down in Florida,
Yeah.
in hurricane country, so
He's returning
hopefully he'll be safe.
tomorrow afternoon. What's today, Tuesday? Yes, Wednesday afternoon, he's coming back.
Right. Marlene, so under continued old business? wanna do
Just
topic
before
numbers?
that, though,
Oh,
the
did I miss
other
something?
item I wanted to mention is the capital improvement planning process.
Yes.
So I've provided you with a draft copy of the letter that would go out to departments, boards, and committees, and including attachments, forms that they would complete. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Ed is the representative on
Liaison
the
or
capital planning.
representative, yep.
So Ed, you and I can touch base. Maybe you might want to select some dates that the committee will meet, get that information out to the other members.
Yeah. Thank you for getting that going.
welcome.
Has the capital planning committee met already or
Not
begun
yet.
meeting?
Not yet. They haven't had a meeting.
Well, that'll be where they pick who the chairperson is and who the scribe is.
right, they
and
need to
who all- Yeah, they
organize.
do a regular organizational type meeting. Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you, Marlene. And I did see that in our packet. Want to do,
So I'll follow up with that anyway regarding the schedule and the dates.
Yep.
They'll set a number of dates for the committee and then to meet with departments.
do we know who's on it from finance yet? Have they determined
No,
that?
actually, we don't know.
So we're probably the first
Finance.
ones that have decided.
Right,
you know,
the other
who's-
at-large members, Fran Spellacy.
Yes.
Michael Poshik from the
Poshik from the school
school.
committee.
And so we just need to know who the individual is from the finance committee or member.
And then,
of the
and then
finance
a
committee.
second
And a second
at-large member, as
at-large.
we talked to earlier. Okay. So there's 5 members on that committee.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Okay. Did you want to just go over topic number 6, which is the power purchase agreement letter of intent?
If you recall, Mr. Grout, Stephen Grout from Hampshire
Yep.
Council of Governments, actually, he had thought of attending tonight, but seeing that we're moving ahead, this is the letter of intent.
He's going to be, we can hold off.
He was going to be here just in case there were any questions. If
Oh.
you'd like to hold off, if he,
Sure, why don't we hold
Just
off
in
in
case he
case he
does
showed,
show
yeah,
up.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that he might be joining us. So,
okay.
yeah, I hate to have him, all
Okay.
right. You want to,
COA is present.
yes, they are, need to get their stuff. Okay. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Of course, Carrie.
We must be topic 3, are you there?
We're on topic 7, but we're,
You were waiting for us?
well, no, you're here right on time. For
Okay.
your, we went through a few things that didn't take quite as long. So it's always tough when you try to give, you know, a time frame. So we were popping around in different places, so.
Gotcha.
So we've got the board of directors, or some of the board of directors and some members of the Council on Aging here with us this evening to voice some questions and concerns about the town hall renovations phase 2, which we all realize are coming up, and how it would affect the COA and its members and its staff, and what options all of us together may have to try to make the renovations as easy as possible on the Council on Aging. So they asked, and we were certainly willing to have them come here so that we could have the conversation. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Carrie,
Sure.
because you're sitting all by yourself up front.
I got
but-
to sit by myself. I've been nominated. We're on the side of you. So we did discuss with Marlene some of the topics or questions that we have as a board, and Jane as the director, just things like, which we discussed this the last time, we kind of can't have like a 2 weeks notice and be told that, hey, by the way, this is going to start and, oh, you got to go, kind of thing. Our van schedule is planned out months in advance, and our programs that we run are too. And so I guess one of the, actually, back at the beginning of September, Marlene had outlined for us some things that you guys already have for information, which was very helpful, just because it gives us sort of a guideline of what you guys are expecting of the process and when you think it's going to start, or hopefully going to start. And obviously, we all know that construction doesn't ever start when it's supposed to, and it certainly doesn't end when you think it's going to. So, with that said, I guess one of our main questions is that really how long are we looking at, or do we know yet of how long we're looking at that we're going to be removed out of the basement? I mean, we're not just talking about a fire suppression system being put in, we're talking about an elevator being dropped into the basement, we're talking about losing our kitchen completely, so even if we could move back in, then we have to figure out what we're gonna do for our lunches and stuff like that, or do we not bring our lunches back here, but bring our programs back here? They have this, right? They have this page, our page. So if you look at the page 2 of this, our COA activities, we have been looking to figure out where we could go with some of these, if we don't do some of these programs at all, if that's really what it comes down to be due to space and availability. And so we did talk with the school, and superintendent is wonderful, and the lunch program have welcomed in our seniors to actually let them come and do the lunches there, hopefully. We're meeting with them September 20th, to meet with their director to discuss basically like what has to happen for our program versus what they already offer up there, so on and so forth. But I know John was here at our department head meeting and was very vocal about, you know, that they want to have the students interacting with the seniors, and thought it would be definitely a great thing for both groups.
Absolutely.
Which we 100% support too.
Yep.
So if it all works out, our lunch issue, we haven't really decided if we're gonna do it 5 days a week, or if we're only gonna do maybe 3 days a week, and then the people who do get lunches here, if we can get them the opportunity to receive the lunch at home or not. We're not sure if Highland Valley will allow us to do that or not. Then, and I don't mean to keep looking back, but I just want the
Yeah.
reassurance
All their
for the
heads
two
are
that are
going,
here every single
all their
day.
heads are going up and down, so you're okay.
So, that is a waiting game for us. It's to obviously make final decisions with the
Right.
school to make sure that everybody's on the same page, but then in turn to that, like how long are we thinking 2 to 3 months, or if we, you know what I mean, and how we can plan out.
May I?
Go- absolutely.
So I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But this may sort of lead us to the rest of tonight's conversation, which is, we don't expect to have any sort of a groundbreaking as of today
Yeah,
until March.
Right, construction would, as my
Construction would start in
notes,
March, at this point,
The fire suppression system or no?
yes. Well, that's my
believe it
understanding.
does.
That's,
Oh, it does,
The
okay.
Yes.
construction would commence in March.
the contract has
That's
not.
a good question, but
Well,
that's my
Fiscal,
understanding,
you had
talking with
mentioned
the
fire
architect.
suppression, so I was under the understanding that the fire suppression was separate from the actual,
if it's all part of one process.
It's,
or-
it's all part of the entire project, the overall
Right,
project.
yes.
So we're looking, so as of today, we're thinking March, so we're not,
Yeah.
we have months,
Yeah.
obviously.
But as we all know, it'll be February like that.
Correct, right.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
not saying
Oh,
we have
yeah.
months to be like, oh, today we don't need to worry about this
No,
until
no,
December.
but I guess because I just was, we are just finding this out today where we stand. And
Right.
so I assume that you guys might not have known that, and we want the townspeople and the folks that benefit from the COA and everything that you offer to understand that this isn't something that's going to happen right now. And I think more good news on top of that is it's not going to happen in the winter.
Correct, that's even
I
better.
think that's probably a home run for all of us, actually, but for your members in particular.
Absolutely.
I have no doubt that the schools will do everything, the superintendent and the principals will do everything within their power. I mean, on a school committee level, we spoke about that previously, and so John was very aware of it. And I think the interaction of the students with the COA members would just be awesome, first off, and fill the need for the food, for the lunches, if that's what has to happen. So we certainly, again, I wasn't trying to interrupt you
No,
to
you're not.
say, don't, so we can go through all this or address any concerns you have. But spring, early spring is at this point when we're looking to probably have ground broken on whatever step one is of this next phase 2.
So then I guess my next question is that I'm assuming the upstairs level of the town hall, this level, is gonna stay in working condition during construction? That's the intent?
I would
Correct.
say that's
There's-
Yeah.
I would say that's the
Unless
intent.
something obviously comes along that nobody realizes, but as of this.
Correct.
Because with that, we were hoping, Right, that's where we were talking at the department head meeting also about our exercise program is to block off the days of the week to use this room for our seniors to be able to still do, I mean, it's an hour out of the morning to be able to do their exercise program 3 days a week, to really not take that away from them.
Yeah.
I got a question. Any of these programs, could they be used at the facility over there at Capewalk? The building, the community building they have, like bingo or something, or that room over there is
Our
not
only
big?
issue with moving to another place is we need a secure place to be able to lock things up, because they do get legs and walk away.
Okay.
So if we're gonna move equipment or something like that, we need a place to secure it.
Right.
So are you looking for all these to be one location, or
No, well,
can
this
you
is what we're,
use
this is,
multiple?
no, we're talking about either it being multiple, or we take we don't offer the programs
Right.
during the time of construction.
This is
if
more of a
that's
what you do
This is
now
like, we
type
want you guys
thing.
to see what we do and
Yeah.
what we're, this isn't just a kind of a last minute thing to make a decision.
Right.
But I do know that once the architect gets his designs out, his blueprints out, once the architect gets that in line, then there'll be an actual schedule with time frame.
Right.
And as he gets closer, then we get closer to letting you know in March how long it's gonna take.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know how long the elevator's gonna take, I don't know the piping, but we should have a better idea as we move through the process of getting all that information from the architect, because he's gotta make all the plans, he's gotta have a schedule laid out, he's gotta have a design laid out.
Right.
And dates, so.
So then, one major thing, and I think I speak for all of us as the board, is where Jane and Cookie are gonna end up getting, their office is getting moved. The office needs to stay in one location somewhere. They need phone access, and they need a desk space and like an office space to be able to work and have people that still can come and go to talk to her, that she has privacy to talk on the phone when needed. She does a lot of conference calls with doctors' offices and seniors in town to help set up appointments and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's just something that needs to be thought about now versus 6 months from now, as we're looking, obviously, of is Jane's office gonna be moved up here somewhere on this level? Or, I mean, which I know it's a tight space and there's not a lot of space, but it's just something that needs to be thought about, is that she needs to be relocated somewhere that phone service and internet and all that stuff is accessible to her for her day-to-day working conditions.
Is that needed for a full day, or could that be half a day, a full day? All the way till 4 or 5, right? Okay.
Unless you want me to stay home and do it.
No, I was just asking because the veterans agent comes in later. He's here for, 3 or 4 hours, and head office is sort of open for 4 hours.
Well, so if we were to say that space, let's just use it as an example, that space is 10 times more space than Jane has currently. And truthfully, I think with a little bit of reorganization, you probably 100% could put both of them in the same office. And,
Well, it's bigger than downstairs.
well, it's bigger than downstairs, but even if, and I'm sorry, I don't remember his first name in the.
Jerry.
Jerry.
Clark.
When Jerry needs to come to work,
Yeah.
they clearly can both probably work in the same office for what needs to be done for the hour or a couple hours a week that he puts in. I can't imagine that that's really gonna mess up your schedule, as long as you have an idea of when or kind of thing like that.
I feel confident that we can work things out. He's not in there every day.
Right.
And there's also the option, because the treasurer collector on occasion uses that space.
Yeah.
If Jerry needed to meet with somebody, he could use the town accountant's office. We have a desk and a computer in there. So I'm just thinking, if Jane were to use that office, Jerry could use some space in the accountant's office.
Okay.
I just want to piggyback on that to go back to a question you asked earlier, which is, all of our assumption is this floor, the main floor of Town Hall, is going to remain functional, barring any foreseen circumstance.
Right.
We already had that conversation. On top of that, I would say, there's going to be some reorganization of people and, there's going to have to be an office space so that we can utilize as much as we can, because this is a team effort.
Right.
Okay, so, and it's temporary.
Right.
So we're all just going to have to do what we have to, but, the show must go on. So Cookie and Jane still need to do their thing. They still need to meet with the COA members. The programs still need to be offered. We just all need a little flexibility, I think, Excuse me. But, you know, I would agree that we could absorb a couple of office spaces, including the building inspector, up on this floor and just do a little reorg for on a temporary basis. I mean, the phones are here, the internet's here, it's a matter of reconfiguring things.
My personal opinion,
Yeah.
you're gonna see devastation to this building like you can't imagine. Having
Well, it's like
built
watching the
elevator
hurricane
shafts and
news.
been involved with them, you're going through the floors. Derek's town accountant office, talk about relocating somebody in there, will probably be like the epicenter of an earthquake. When they start jackhammering that floor for that elevator pit and sawing concrete for any of the utility lines that they need to run through the substructure, the vibration, noise, dust is gonna be off the charts.
I know we also have, I don't know if the office over next door can be utilized, because you got a big office over there and conference center for emergency management.
There's a big
That's a big
training room.
space.
Well, you know, we've got 6 months. There's actually no excuse for any of us to not be able to come up with a plan to put something in place.
So I guess
And then
that's why
tweak
we're
it-
here.
Tweak it
is-
as we move forward if something needs to change.
And that's why we're here. We discussed this a few months ago when we were advised to go out and try to check things out ourselves and stuff. We did look into some things. Some stuff doesn't work. It's not going to work. Like, we looked at the church, or the Congregational Church. We thought about the Legion. But the Legion's not handicap accessible. And so there's certain places that we did try to look at to say, well, could we move everything and be in one location, one spot? It's obviously, ideally being somewhere here is the most reasonable thing, because it does give our seniors the ability to use the other offices and stuff to be somewhere around here, but that's ideal. It doesn't always mean it's realistic.
I think we should talk about the training room over there, because.
Well, I did, I
if there's-
talked, so that's my next conversation, is I spoke with the fire chief and the deputy fire chief, and we've discussed this in great detail, and the chief has been very open about, as long as he's aware ahead of time of knowing a schedule. So if we say, for instance, we're not gonna do exercise here, we're gonna do it over there, if he knows that Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we're doing exercise from 9:30 to 10:30, then he knows that he's not lending out the training room for meetings. Or if they're, like today, Homeland Security came here, the Western Mass Homeland Security team met in our training room for the whole day. And so if that was something that was gonna be happening, that it needed to be accessible for them, then that means that if it was a program for us, then we would just tell people, okay, this date, we're not doing our program. If it has, like, obviously, like you said, everybody has to work together and we'll make things happen, and we will. But that's really why we're here, is to kind of discuss some of these things and say, okay, this is where we've come up with some of these ideas to move certain things, so we're all in the same playing field, because some of this stuff is stuff we have to think about like right now, and some of it's stuff that can be thought about in the next few months as we get closer, because obviously March could become February, or March could become April, you know, and we get an extra month out of it. That's not great for everybody, but it's great for us, you know, I mean, it's the way it is. Yes, go ahead.
So our main concern actually to us is more office space that is handicap accessible to the public, for the people to come in. Because as far as all these programs here, some of these programs where we have other people coming in from other agencies to provide assistance can be done actually in the space that would be our office. They could use that space, or they could use this room here, or whatever, a corner of it. But our main concern is office space. That's what our main concern is.
And we're talking
some place
one
that's secure
office-
where we have
One
files
office for
that
two
can be
people,
locked.
right?
One office for two people.
One office for
And on
two
days that
people.
we would do shine or something like that, I mean,
Sure.
they would have to share the space, which is obviously fine.
So
Yeah.
just let me intervene with,
Sure.
I understand your concerns, and they're definitely taking, but you're talking about office space that's handicap accessible. When they start construction here, I don't think this building is gonna be handicap accessible. With the time frame that they're gonna work to get the project done by the September of next year's date, I can see them starting the elevator project along with demolition of the ramp.
Can you imagine the noise alone from getting?
So-
Have to make the
But
building handicap accessible.
Somehow there has to be a
We
ramp
could
off the front of the
lease-
building.
We could lease a metal ramp for the front of the building.
You can rent those.
That's what
They're
I'm
not
saying, we would
expensive. You can
lease,
rent
we would
those.
lease, we have to make it handicap accessible.
Carrie, when you're talking about the school, were you talking about both schools or one school in particular?
We've looked at the community room, or we've talked about the community room down there, however, they do use that for morning programs and afternoon programs and stuff. I don't think we're gonna be able to move stuff down there to be, and truthfully, to be using it during the day, the school has to then query check everybody that's going in that building.
Right, but if
That's a lot of
if
work.
March becomes May all of a sudden, school's out for
School's
summer.
out, I was thinking the same
Then
thing.
that's a whole reconsideration. If we could use school during the summer months and that's where it comes to be, then that's what we do and that's
Every
great.
day. But are they giving, the superintendent, is he agreeable to use of both schools or just one?
Oh, no, he didn't commit to one or the other. It sounds like if the lunch program thing works and everybody's on board with it, then it sounds like it's gonna be at the high school.
Well, my suggestion is that when we go to the architect to design whatever he's gonna design, he has to put in provision in there to put a handicap accessible ramp somewhere into this building.
Well, in all honesty, take us out of the equation, you got handicapped people in this town that still need to be able to access the offices here. So they should be considering that in the first place.
Wherever
The
they're
ramp out
walking,
front.
they're gonna be walking in a construction zone. Are you gonna have somebody passing out hard hats when they enter the ramp? They're gonna be walking by where they're building the shaft. They're gonna be walking by where you're cutting, whatever is going on. The whole conversation, in my opinion, is totally unrealistic. You should look at locating some modular units in the parking lot and relocating as many of these offices as you can. Because it's gonna be that, can you imagine the jackhammering out of that ramp and the.
Yeah, you're never gonna be able to have a
that
phone
ramp up there
conversation.
Alone, not to mention going through the decking of these floors with hitting problems that you don't even know what is in there.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a great idea, but those things are expensive, and where do we get the money now? I mean, nobody thought about this at the beginning, because modules cost a good chunk of change, because we've had them at campus, the modules.
And it's not only the elevator project, you're talking fire suppression, so you're talking taking the ceiling tiles out of all the offices to run the piping. You're talking a new electric coming into this building, so what is the disruption of that going to be?
So it's another whole conversation.
Yeah, so I mean,
Well, while we're talking for a second, just because I have a question, have you, back in the May town meeting, they had put the feasibility monies forward. Has there been any start of that process or discussion or where you're at with it?
No.
Okay, I just was wondering.
I'm saying that is because I'm waiting for them, the architect, to get done with what he has to do with this part of the
Okay.
project.
Okay, I just wasn't sure,
Yeah.
because then that's for another conversation. 'Cause
Right.
There's really, at this point, there's not.
And I even think, Carrie, to be honest, I think that the feasibility study would have a better impact once construction starts, so you can see what you've lost and what you've gained down there. Because who knows, like Kyle said, you don't know until you get into the guts of the building. I mean, you might have to take a little bit more space, who knows? We don't know. Sure, they did enough of, preliminary work, but till you start cutting things open.
Well, and we've had this conversation before, and I tried to have this conversation a year ago when we were discussing monies, and we should have been looking at this a year ago before we finalized on this current next phase. Is that in the end, COA is gonna lose out. And I'm just throwing it out there for the public to know, and in general, as we talk about this and we start getting into this construction, you're gonna deteriorate the whole downstairs, and then what we're supposed to come back into, we don't know what. And there's no thought process, and there's no discussion of what's next. And I know it's money, and I know it's not anybody that people want to be hearing, but we're,
And no matter,
logically, I mean, in a realistic, wonderful world, if we had the money to do it in this town, a new building is exactly what the senior center needs, but to be realistic, we kind of need to probably stay looking at the space that we've got.
Or when the first project was brought forth to do the whole building.
We should have just done the whole building from beginning to end. I
Because
know.
you're almost
what
at,
you do to that
Coulda, woulda,
basement,
shoulda.
it's still gonna be a basement, it's still gonna have a moisture problem, it's still gonna
and,
be.
in
a hole in
the
the ground.
initial project of the whole building being done, all that was included to waterproof the basement, everything was included, ventilation
Great,
system.
still look great. Nobody, I guarantee you there's gonna be unhappy people even after the expenditure of all this money, so.
Well, it doesn't address the biggest problem, which was the cellar and the front steps.
But anyways, So we have, to go back to what we were discussing, we have made some steps ahead of figuring out what we're gonna do. It doesn't look like, for instance, if you go down our list, the brown bag program we can do over in the training room. It's one Tuesday a month. As long as we tell the fire chief it's gonna happen, the tables are there, the space is there, we can make it happen. Shine and Snap, if we know when it's happening and what's going on and how many people are gonna be coming and going and the duration of the time, I don't see that being an issue because that time of day really isn't a problem over in that space, so I'm sure that, again, the chief will be okay with it, and if he's not, then we have to find another space. But I don't see that being an issue. He seemed to be very open about however he can help, he will. Well, it doesn't matter, because next month it will, or October won't matter at this point, because our health clinics get done already. But our volunteer recognition, that's a big thing that we do, and obviously it's not gonna happen downstairs next year, so we just need to, really look at a space from now until then, because that's a big part of what we do to recognize our volunteers
That's in the
every year.
spring, yeah.
That's huge. It's in the spring. We probably could do it at the Legion, and that's the space we'll go, and if we have to figure out how to get a handicap accessible, we'll do it, we'll figure it out.
Well, the Legion might be just a ramp at the bottom there to where the steps are. A
Right.
small ramp, and then,
Right, if we
it's
were
just
to
the
use the
bathroom's
downstairs.
not
if-
handicap accessible, but it's been all renovated, so.
But if we were to use the upstairs, you could go up on the back street and the people who are handicapped could come in that back door and be able to get in. And just use that top floor because there's bathrooms both right there. So anyways, and
That's in April.
April, right. So that 100, that is definitely gonna get affected by whatever's happening because we won't be downstairs at all.
Extensive library.
So then that's our next question. So Jane and I had talked about this today, and our library that is accessible to our seniors. At this point, hearing what Kyle has to say about the mess that's gonna happen, I think that we need to be packaging it all up and moving it, like seriously, like securing all of our books and securing our bookshelves somewhere, and if it means finding, I don't know where we're gonna put it, but it needs to be packaged up and taken out of that basement, or at least taped off and wrapped off so this stuff's not ruined, because, yeah, we were discussing it earlier, as if like, if we just tape it off or we just store it, but at this point, hearing what kind of dust and all that stuff, it probably just makes sense to get rid of it.
Just my opinion.
No, I know it's your opinion, but you are the building inspector, so I kinda trust what you gotta say.
Oh, he was wrong.
Cheap, they're not much
Well, that's what
money,
I was
you
thinking,
know.
is it a
I mean,
storage trailer for?
We just bought one at the school, a couple at the school, they were only like $1,500, so. It's
A
money
storage
well,
trailer,
it's
a
money
storage
well,
trailer.
you know, money well spent.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking is that,
So they get used somewhere else.
Yeah, then we'll use it elsewhere.
Yeah, a pod box, right?
Yeah.
You got a
so
pod
if
box.
we were able to put the box, I don't know if it can be, I would assume it'd have to be here somewhere, but if it got put somewhere logical, because, again, all of our rental, or not rental, because we don't rent it, but the
My question is, can't those just be like left downstairs in the dining room somewhere, or?
I wouldn't.
I mean, are we gonna have to move everything out of there when they do that ceiling?
There's like two.
Sounds like it to me.
Well,
There's like
I
2,000 books.
Can I hand in my written resignation? when the
No, but
project
I wouldn't take a
starts?
chance leaving it there, to be perfectly honest
Yeah.
with you.
I think we take a risk if we're discussing it. I think a storage unit is the smartest thing to do, because we have so much stuff down there.
Everything
And it
else
should all
that
be
you
packaged
want.
up decently and put in a bin and know that it's stored and it's safe, versus, God forbid, they're cutting open ceilings and something breaks and there's water everywhere downstairs, then now all of the stuff is gone.
What about the equipment?
That's the other thing, is that the equipment would have to be
That
to the
has to be
front.
available.
Yeah, it'd have to be to the front of the bin.
The one,
So right now, if I got this understanding, is
Yep.
right now for food, you're looking at the school and possibly Congregational Church for some
No
activity.
congregational church.
Okay, you're looking at the
Schools.
school, or you're looking at, give them,
Home meals if Highland Valley will let
and then
them.
for storage, you could have a pot out here, and then for activities, you might have some here, or the training room over there, or possibly the Legion for your appreciation, right?
Yep.
or the appreciation dinner, things like that, or one time where you don't need equipment, you probably use the room across the
But the
street
main-
at Capewalk.
Our appreciation dinner, no.
That's too big?
There's like,
But other
there's like
one-time-
75 people, it's like it's one time, so we would just get the
One-time
Legion,
things.
hopefully.
So,
But the
Let-
real pressing thing that you have is an office.
Right.
That's your big concern, is having an office for two people. So where we can help you is try to work with you on an office for two people. And where we can help you is when we get more information for when they're gonna start in March and they should be able to give us a timeline for how long it's gonna take, then we take it from there, right?
I would, regarding your April recognition dinner, I have two thoughts. One would be, and I don't know where the musical will be this year, the spring musical that the kids put on every year. If it's not at the high school, which it was one year, a couple of years ago, maybe your recognition dinner can be during school vacation week and use the facilities.
Oh, it is?
Oh, it didn't have a date in here, so it just
Yeah,
said
yeah.
April.
Now that you're talking about it, it usually is that week, so we could use
Have it
or
at
the
one
other.
school. I would suggest asking the superintendent or to plan on having it at one or the other if it's going to be during school vacation week. The other thing I was going to say was if it's not during school vacation week, maybe you could have it start at 2:30 instead of 1 o'clock and still, once all the kids are gone.
It starts at 5:30 anyways.
Oh,
The volunteer recognition thing is in the evening.
that's what I meant. It says 1 to
It
8.
says 1 PM too.
Because that's the.
I'll be the preparation.
Oh, prep.
Oh.
The prep work.
Oh.
starts at
Prep
8.
work.
Okay,
So it would
anyways.
work.
Anyways.
So, yeah.
So maybe we can check that one off as having taken care of that, as long as we
Yeah.
get, I'm not here to speak on behalf of the
No, but that makes sense
superintendent
to discuss it with them, to use one or the other places. That's a
during
good suggestion.
its school, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you have plenty of parking, and you absolutely have, should you need it, the accessibility.
So I myself am gonna make sort of an executive decision to skip some of these questions that we have tonight. And that's only because Phil answered our question that the feasibility study hasn't been started yet, and it's not gonna be, at least for a little while. Can I please ask you that when you think you're getting to that point and it's gonna happen, we would really appreciate being involved in any conversation that's gonna happen, that's gonna discuss the COA, because the only people who can answer those questions is us, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to anybody, but we're these two ladies right here are the ones who make that program run every day, and they're the ones who need to be putting input in of what we're looking for, so that's all I ask.
That's what the feasibility study will be all about.
I hope so. And I appreciate that, but I'm just saying is that when it comes time for that, because the rest of our questions on our list really have to do with where we're going, possibly, are we staying here, that kind of stuff, and there's no sense in debating that tonight or discussing it tonight when
I mean,
we haven't done that
to
part yet.
summarize things, I think you got to look at all your programs and say, okay, if the preliminaries in March, from March to September, you got to
Right,
look
you
at
gotta figure-
that timeframe.
Right.
At what you're going to do.
And if there's onesie-twosie things, such as a recognition dinner, you know.
Right. You
And
can
then,
take 'em
and
off
then
the
the
list right
bigger
now, knowing
things,
we got somewhere for it
the
to go.
bigger things, the office relocation, some exercise space, it's going to need more conversation and a coordination. I mean, not to deflect the question, but until we get the architect in here, we really don't have a lot of answers.
Right, exactly.
I certainly understand what the building inspector's saying. I would like to think that these guys have been through it before, though, and it's not going to be quite the doom and gloom, I hope. But this is a small building, really, and so you are going to hear lots of reverberations, and there's going to be dust. But I would also like to think that the companies hired are professional enough to not much you can do about sound, but to, barrier off things and keep dust to a minimum, that type of thing. And to also give us a schedule, as best they can when they start anyways, unless they run into something, where are you starting, approximately how long is it gonna take, and then what's your what's your plan? And that's how we're gonna plan what we do, right?
Plus, they might be willing to come in earlier in the morning to get some of the work done that's the larger noise, maybe, so we can.
Yeah, we don't,
we'll
we
find
really
out.
don't know, unfortunately.
Let's have a pool.
Running out the door after it starts.
Well, I mean, there was disruptions when they did this, this renovation here, and, you only touched this side of the building. Now, this is touching every corner of the building. You have to think about that, the electric, the water, the fire suppressant, the elevator, the ramp. it's a lot bigger project than
I
this
think that ramp
renovation.
is actually going to be more traumatic than the elevator.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you.
Don't say that.
you know,
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
I
it.
don't think we had a ton of answers for you.
No,
but,
you did, and some of it, like I said, some of it we can't discuss because you guys don't have the answers yet, and that really falls back on the feasibility thing, which Phil answered for us, so it works out that it gives us an answer of knowing that it's really not something that can be discussed currently. Everybody knows it needs to be discussed, it's that little thing hiding in the background that's gonna appear all of a sudden, and it's gonna have to get dealt with.
We are trying to work with you, not against you.
Oh,
okay?
absolutely. No, and I totally understand that, and I agree. I wish honestly, I'm with Phil. And at this point, I wish we voted this project in the first time around, but you can't change the past.
it's a pass, you know? I mean, because you're looking at another phase of the project, you
Right.
know? I mean, if you add up all the numbers of what was spent and what was proposed back
Right.
then,
Yep.
And
you're
it'd
at
be
that
done.
number.
And it would be
And
finished.
it'll be finished, yeah.
Yeah, it should
You're at that number, you know, with twice the space, because you would have had the whole upstairs floor, so.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make a suggestion, if the board is agreeable, that Phil and I continue to meet with the Council on Aging and maybe attend, you meet monthly, correct?
Yes,
Once a month?
yes.
Once a month.
Wednesday
We attend to
morning,
those,
9 a.m.
attend those meetings, continue the discussion regarding this project and discussing alternative options. And, you know, I'm going to draw up a calendar and, you know, just put in the options for space, you know, town hall, office space, recreational space. And, you know, we can talk with everybody, the fire chief and Phil and I and with the council
we'll all
on aging.
figure
and
it
I
out.
think-
I mean, I think,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
really do think that we can work it out.
Like on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday with the osteo class to see how many people attend. You know, it's 30 people. If you
well,
come
I think
out, see how-
it's a good time to start this discussion.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's months away for the construction to start, but if you, like you said, you know, not 2 weeks from now, they're gonna come in, so.
Right,
Right.
and I didn't expect that to be the answer tonight either, but I kind of was thinking like December, January, not March, so
Right. That's-
I gotta be
that's-
honest, I'm appreciative that it's March.
I think
You
we need
guys
to-
may not be, but I
I
am.
think we need to stay on top of it and just continue.
Yeah, because I
the-
just don't want it to become a lost subject all of a sudden,
Yeah.
because so many other things are going on, and there's a lot of stuff going on, so.
Dialogue needs to
No,
continue.
I think it's a good thing that you have the preliminary date of March.
Yeah,
So, you know,
absolutely, that's
You know, and
helpful.
you know it's gonna go from March up to September, so the construction probably.
And you need a plan, right? So, because plans can be tweaked, but if you're flying blindly, you know, it's just total chaos. So
Right.
we're gonna collectively come up with a plan
Yeah,
and
hope that we can
see
stay
how
on
it
that
goes,
guide.
because everything looks good on paper,
oh,
right?
yeah,
So,
for sure.
but if we have a plan in place, you know, we can.
Well, I
do what
mean,
we
even
have.
packing up all the books, I mean, how long is that gonna take, you know? You know,
Right.
you know?
That's a good community service.
I was thinking the same thing, Judy.
High schools.
High school students, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the whole,
Officers and move them.
As long as they all share the
The
same
scouts are
alphabet,
always looking for
right?
projects.
As long as they share the
The
same
scouts and
alphabet.
community hours.
We've got to have the storage unit.
I think the
Right.
high school
And
students
kids,
have
yeah.
something new.
And just because you brought the subject up, so we can plan, if we have to get a storage unit or a pod or whatever, who pays for it? Where does the cost come from? Our budget, your budget, the town's budget, like overall budget?
Worry about that when we get to the.
Okay, just wondering, I wasn't sure if it's something we need to start planning on ourselves to figure out, that's all.
We'll just, I
You-
mean,
But you'll
I
get the
mean, once
numbers
you get
anyways,
to, you
right?
know, at that point in time, you should,
Where it can be placed out here.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure we're not gonna be the only ones who are gonna need storage. We're probably gonna
Be a
need the
little
biggest, but I bet you
grassy
others
space
might need
over
well,
storage
you
too.
know, obviously the contractor's gonna have to take up some space somewhere for his equipment,
Yeah.
so, you know.
You want your pod.
So I guess and there's another conversation, which we don't have to have tonight, but then maybe the back training room is not the space to be having some of these projects, because that's all those extra vehicles here that don't 100% need to be. Not trying to throw a monkey wrench in things, but if we've got
No.
construction equipment here every day, and the workers here every day, I don't know if another 30 cars or 20 cars are gonna be good to the area
The way that
too.
I see the project, there's gonna be a lot of subs on site,
Right,
you know.
all right, we'll play it by ear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you're welcome, thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Good job. Where am I? Okay. I think we got through the posted business, so continued old business, I believe, Marlene? Is that sound
Okay,
about
yes.
right?
Right. So back to the power
Number 6?
purchase agreement, and that's with, I had, my understanding was going to be with the Hampshire Council of Governments, but this was between the town, the customer being the town of Hatfield, and Belding AG Grid LLC. If you recall, Stephen Grout from Hampshire Council of Governments was here a few weeks ago discussing this, and Darrell Williams was here regarding this project.
Yep.
So if the board would like to enter into an agreement for power purchase with them, I would ask the board to vote to accept this, and the chair would sign it.
Is there a well,
Question?
Sure, you can ask a
Yeah.
question.
On letter D on the string, it says that the basic charge per kilowatt hour would be 15% below the rate set by Western Massachusetts Electric. Are we talking Eversource now?
And I
Are we
mentioned
talking-
that to him, and he being Stephen, I had let him know that it's actually Eversource. It should
It
be
is Eversource,
It
okay.
should be, yes.
All right, and it says this is non-binding also, is that correct?
Is that because it's just a letter of intent at this
It's-
point and not
right,
the,
yeah.
not an
Yes,
actual
it
contract?
is, I'm looking at my
Right.
notes here, it is non-binding for municipal buildings and any municipal institution.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion to offer to sign the letter of intent for the power purchase agreement as presented? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye. Kind of let the senior guy go for the motions, you know?
Community Compact Grant update, Marlene.
Yes, I met with Representative Marcia Bohink from Department of Revenue last week. She was here on Wednesday reviewing the financial procedures. She met with the town accountant and members of the treasurer collector staff. She's continuing to review those financial policies, and we're still looking at having a draft copy of those new financial policies the end of this month.
Okay. Thank you.
Fiscal year 17 budget reconciliation update. I did have a telephone conference or call with Justin Cole today. He was out here last Wednesday, met with the town accountant. They worked on several items regarding town meeting authorizations. And he confirmed today that he has received additional documents that he had been expecting from the treasurer collector's office. My concern was that perhaps we weren't going to be able to meet those dates that that timeline that he had established. He said there is some flexibility in there, and he's still comfortable with those dates. So he also reassured me that we're looking at having the tax classification hearing on November, I believe it's November 11th, and he does not see any problem with that
Yeah, it's
happening.
mid-November, yeah.
Right.
So we're on track for the DOR requirements for the end of September? Or?
We're
the
on
five-
target for well, yes, we've established, the assessor's office has some reporting that's due in September, October.
Okay.
And they're comfortable with those dates. Actually, the LA3, which is the first report due, the target date was September 16th, and they'll have that completed September 14th.
Okay.
So pretty much Justin is continuing to do the work that he's been hired to do. We did chat this morning about the next round of the Community Compact grants, and he's had some discussions with the state and DOR, looking at, there's efficiency and regionalization, which is part of it's a grant that's available through the Community Compact. And he was wondering if we might be interested in applying for a grant, which would provide financial, a finance director would provide assistance to Hatfield and some other communities that are in need of some assistance, guidance. And I told him I'd be very much interested in exploring that.
Nice.
Yep.
That grant round is October 16th through November 16th, so that's something we'll need to be working on. But I'll continue to have conversation with Justin about that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
That'd be a nice win. The town server.
Town server upgrade, that was a capital item. And we're also relocating the town hall server to the emergency services building. And the installation of the fiber cable is complete. This Friday, Paragus will be on site to do some additional work. We're looking at completing the server upgrade the end of this month and go live September 29th if everything goes accordingly.
And that should take care of all the issues with emergency services in the town hall.
Correct. It made sense to relocate it over there. They have a generator, and certainly give them better service than what they had. So two separate things, relocating the server. The capital project is upgrading the server. So that should be complete the end of this month.
They doing that on, I don't know what day of the week the 29th is? They're gonna do it on like a Friday or Thursday or Friday afternoon before a weekend, just in case there's some issues? I just throw that out, but
And
that oftentimes.
typically they do that,
Right.
like the work they're going to do this week is going to be on Friday, and it's just easier because there's less offices.
Well,
It
thank you.
impacts-
If something
You
happens-
guys
It
put the
impacts
pipe
less
in, right?
people.
Yeah. So thank you to your crew for getting that pipe in and
That
getting it
was-
all
yeah.
set.
Yeah, and, and the other thing is, we
Ran that.
didn't just run one conduit, we went 4 separate conduits out there in case we ever have to pull a wire out there for anything. I mean, the pipes are in the ground out there, so,
How many you got?
4 of them. There's
Nice.
four,
Okay.
so there's 3 open conduits that run out.
And what size are
They're all
they?
1.5 inches.
1.5 inches, okay. I mean, if they had ever needed some kind of temporary power for
Absolutely, you could run it
here,
right out there.
you have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Trench is open, you might as well fill it up with
We filled it up with pipe.
pipes. All right. Good, thank you. Good luck with that. Okay, number 10, we've got a couple of community preservation letters of agreement.
agreements. One for the old mill, that's for restoration and rehab, and then the architectural design and cost study for the pavilion at the park.
Next door, this
Right.
pavilion, right. this-
Right. That's the second phase
Right, I only
of
say that because sometimes when
project.
we hear pavilion, everybody thinks of the Lions Club Pavilion, that's all.
Pavilion
So-
in Academy Park.
Right. And these are already voted upon?
They were voted at
at
town meeting.
This is just to sign and make it official. Okay, I'll sign those, or we'll sign those. All right, any unanticipated new business from anybody?
Actually,
My
I did have a
colleagues?
question.
Yeah.
Do you, a couple meetings ago, the water department had an issue with water meters off Elm Street, and there was supposed to be a follow-up letter. I think we all get the email from the water
There's-
department. Has that follow-up letter been done
No, there's been some conversation about that, and
about
the
estimating?
DPW will draft the letter.
That would
to
work
them.
better? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming under that, there'd be need a physical inspection to ensure that the piping
Yeah, I
was
mean-
in fact changed. Right.
Well, we can have our plumbing inspector hopefully get access,
Okay.
hopefully. I'll work with the building inspector, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Way-
that-
We
'cause
just wanna
that's probably
put-
the way to go, is
you
through the
know,
building inspector.
Just want to get this
Put
Resolved.
to rest.
Yeah. Yep.
before the next bills. And
Right. Did you have anything else?
yeah, actually,
That's okay, no.
don't hold everybody. Marlene, this one would be addressed to you. I don't know if you're aware, but I had some complaints by some people that this last time the property taxes went out, people that had a post office box and it was addressed to, the tax bill was addressed to their residents specifically, instead of using the post office box, the post office sent all those bills back. And
So the treasurer is aware of it, the treasurer collector is
right,
aware
but
of
it
that.
appears that nothing was done with them. One party came in, they said 2 days before their tax bill was due, and the pile was sitting there, so no one made an attempt to get them to the residents so they
okay.
could pay on time. And I know every so often the post office they have some rule where if you have a post office box, your mail needs to go there instead of the residential.
I
and
have gone through this for years
Yeah,
with the post office.
so did my mom, and every so
So-
often they'd like, oh, well, let's enforce this, and it seems like, and then sometimes they let it slide for a while and then they enforce it again, but I understand there was
So it went to the
a number of
physical
bills.
address as
It
opposed
didn't
to the
go.
post office?
No, the post office sent it back here. They
Okay.
sent a stack of bills back, and no one made an effort to get them to
They were
the
addressed
residences.
to,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
And they also asked if perhaps maybe when taxes are due, since those robocalls go out, maybe there could be a reminder that go out to people that want community notifications that, don't forget taxes are due this week or something.
But I think it's important that the residents know that if they get their mail from a post office box, they need to let the town know
Yeah.
that that's their legal address, because for years, everybody put their schools or whatever, street
Yeah.
address. So I think it's important that the town knows that.
If they, right, if they set that
Contact the
up,
treasurer, contact the clerk, let them know that you actually have a PO box, that's your mailing
Right.
address.
that's how it
Right,
should
and-
be.
And that's a good thing, but and they can notify the town, but you can't notify everybody who's gonna send you mail, obviously. But the other thing is, if you get a whole stack that comes back, there's gotta be, obviously,
you're
the town
aware
wants,
that they
the
didn't
town
get
wants
them,
the money to
right.
come in too, and they'd
Right.
like
But
it
this
on
has been
time.
going on for a couple of years with the post office and.
It's longer, yeah, a long
It's
time,
hard
much longer
because
than
some
that, but-
people want, it's a tough thing. Some people say you gotta have a mailing address, and we say, well, my post office box is my mailing.
Well, I would
address.
suggest, having worked in a company
both.
that had sent out lots of bills, wherever somebody wants to receive their mail is the address that they should be giving to whoever's sending them the mail. So if somebody wants it in their PO box, they should make sure that everybody who's gonna send the mail has the PO box.
Right.
That's how it's, or if they don't, the post office should forward it to the street address. That's their job.
But they
We're the
don't-
post office, we get
That's
the,
what-
but they
Yeah, that's
should.
what
They won't
I
do it,
understand
right.
that.
They won't do that anymore. The post office doesn't do it.
No, they
As far as they're concerned, they say, if you get your mail here, that's your PO box.
Correct.
I've been through this for a couple years.
But if I had a
with the
PO
post
box,
office.
Ed, if I had a PO box and my street address, if a piece of mail goes through the post office, whether I have a PO box or not, and it says 26 Maple Street, they should be delivering that mail to 26 Maple Street.
As long as there's a stamp on
It
it,
didn't,
it should
it
be
didn't say to
delivered.
put it if I wanted it to post office box, I'd have it sent to the post office
They
box.
won't do that. They
I never
have
heard of
new
such a
people.
thing.
Some people will do it over there, some people
You
won't.
only enforce it sporadically.
You got to put on both now. You got to put on your PO box and your street address if you want to be covered.
When you buy that stamp, it doesn't say on there, you can't send it to your street. I mean, it's
But,
crazy.
okay, well,
Yeah.
we can't
But
change
I'm
the
just
post
thinking, if they
office
come
rules,
back,
but
maybe there's some way that
why they're
can
not
be
sending it
resent
to
or
where
something.
somebody
I don't know.
addresses it is
But,
beyond.
Faster turnaround.
What's that?
Some kind of faster turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely should,
Because
Cindy,
there's people
because
that didn't get
in
it
our,
on time, and we want them on
we
back
got
at
two
time.
bills in one mailing.
You're talking about that one time where
We're talking about real estate taxes? Yes,
Yeah.
because my November ones are sitting at my house, which I got whenever they sent out the last quarter. So whoever didn't get the last bill didn't
Right.
get the last two bills,
Bills.
really.
Right.
And they might not realize that.
That's true.
So,
That's a good point, too.
and they're due like November 1st.
As far as the due date too, I've had the thought that maybe we should look at putting up a couple of sandwich boards, maybe one in front of the town hall, one down at the common when real estate or water and sewer bills are due.
Yeah, or else, like I said, that one of
Publicize
the
the date.
citizens did suggest that, people that ask for the community notice, says you do the one robocall, taxes are due, July 1st or whatever to remind them. But if they're not signed up for that, they're not going to get that either. But
Right.
at least you might contact more people. Anyway.
Anything else?
Yes,
I have-
anything else? Oh, Phil's got
I
something.
have one thing. I know it's a subject that no one wants to discuss because we've been discussing it for the past 10 years, but Mike Mendek was over yesterday.
Yeah. Parking.
You're right, we've been discussing it for 10 years.
So,
We've measured out the 6, though.
with that being said, with winter approaching and with the sale of the building across the street, there's going to be issues. I see them coming because they were granted permission through the town before to park across the street at the center school. But now with a private owner, there's no more parking over there.
Right.
So, I know that Cindy walked the property out here with Mike, I've walked the property out here with Mike. So at the end of the exit to School Street, the parking lot jogs in. There's a berm of dirt there that we can gain probably 6 to 7 spaces right there. So my feeling is let's take that grassy area away, create the 6 or 7 spots for now.
Phil, is that town property or part of the park? I'd just be concerned if it's part of the park.
It
that-
could be
it
part of
could-
the park right now.
We need to take a look at that deed.
When the park was measuring, I did ask the surveyors, and they seemed to think it stopped before those parking spaces.
Okay, well, that's good.
You know,
if
he
it
couldn't
does.
guarantee it, but he felt
The
that it did.
only thing
when
is
they
the
measured.
cost that's going to incur with doing that. I don't mind paying for the parking lot because we'll be using it probably for the renovations here. But there's a pole out there that has to be relocated with the light on it. And I don't think that the town should be incurring all costs, let me put it that
Agreed.
way.
Yeah, you know, this is a tough call. I mean, at least for me personally, because we want to help our citizens the best we can. You know, but a year ago I sat here and had this conversation. So I remember when my mother-in-law had to get in her car in Southampton. They said, "Move your car, it's snowing," and everybody where she lived had to just get out, and there was no place to park. So, having said that, the folks across the street are very fortunate to be able to utilize and have the police department, the fire department, the select board, the DPW, to try to offer assistance year-round, not just in the winter. And I think we should continue to try to do that if we can, but it shouldn't be an expectation that town hall property is a parking lot for anybody. I'm not just talking about across, you know, you can't just come here and park. So, in trying to work together, I think that if we can work together and come up with some parking places, and we'll pay for that, and the Mike and his board can look and to call the phone company or the electric company or whoever's pole it is, and call and say, come on out here and give us a cost for moving this pole from here to there, or whatever they decide they have to do, and find out the cost and see if that's something they're willing to absorb in order to get those 6 parking places. Because I agree, that's not on us to do that.
No.
That's how I feel, without knowing all, having sat at the meetings. I mean,
You know,
we're
and-
doing what we can, we've done what we can for years.
You know, and again, you know, at least for the past 5 years, we have asked, what's the long-term plan over there? We have asked that question countless times.
We have, but cutting into Main Street
Is out. That's out.
onto the grass in front of the building was never a real option, in my opinion.
So-
I mean, it might be an option that they thought, you know.
You know, is the
But-
6 spots or 7 spots out there gonna help? Probably, but they're losing 12 to 14 across the street.
Right.
But I've never seen that many vehicles parked over there at night.
know.
There's only when it's snow removal time, then there's a lot.
Well, and you kind of hate to say it, but I'm going to anyways, because it's the God's honest truth. Capewong's parking issue is not the town of Hatfield's parking issue. So there, I said it, okay? I'm sure, you know, there's probably some unhappy people, but that's the reality.
Right, so
You know,
I'm just
it's our
asking,
citizens, and we're trying to help, and we'll do what we can, but I've talked to individuals who live there, and I've made those comments, so I'm not hiding behind them. That
so I
is
guess
not-
I'm just asking for the board's permission to pursue it.
Yeah.
To pursue this, to have them incur the cost to move the pole, and we'll pay for the parking.
It seems like a fair, I mean, it seems like a fair balance for us. And it's better, they're losing spots that they had to walk a little bit of a distance to, and now they're going to be right across the street, so. But that's still not even alleviating or addressing the winter concerns.
No.
This is just trying to help out with the spaces they're losing across the
Correct.
street. So they really do need, they need a plan. And there's space behind that building, and they're just going to have to get with somebody that can figure out how to utilize it.
Agreed.
And take into account that we have construction starting in the spring. And we still have emergency vehicles to get in and out. So
And I think that'll help
yeah.
out there with, taking that grassy area out, that'll push it over a little
Right.
bit, so they could be able to get through there.
As long as it's not part of,
The park.
yeah, so.
Correct. Well, that's the first step.
Unless you say it's part, you have to have some parking for the park, so then you can put them in anyway on theirs. As park parking.
Thanks for the update, Phil.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's all I have.
Was there a vote to approve those community preservation agreements? I don't have anything.
No,
Sorry to
otherwise, I
That's
interrupt.
okay. Phil started talking. So, I don't think we did, Marlene. So these were already town meeting approved, so I guess we're
Yes,
just looking.
they were. It's
We're just
just-
looking for the official,
The projects were
Project, yeah,
approved
right.
at town meeting.
Yep.
These are the
I don't know what I
letters
did
of
with the thing.
agreement.
Yep. So the chair will entertain a letter of agreement between the town of Hatfield and the CPA and the Old Mill Inn. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept what the town meeting accepted.
second that.
So this is regarding the Old Mill Inn. So is there any further, there's motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
No,
Okay, and is there a motion between the Hatfield Open Space Committee and the CPA regarding the pavilion for the Smith Academy Park? So moved? Okay. Ed
Seconded.
made the motion, Cindy seconded. Any further discussion?
No.
no.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Want me to mention one more thing?
Yeah, we're here.
I just want to say, just for thought for the future, not for tonight, actually, years ago, my son came before the Board of Selectmen about putting the flags on the pole after 9/11, which I think they've looked beautiful every year since
Yes,
then. And
they do.
I just want to note that in Irving, National Grid now wants to charge something like $180,000 to $200,000 for their flags that are on the poles going through the center of town. So I just thought I'd mention that in case that comes up. I don't know if they're going to do that with other towns or what, but, which I don't know where that number came from, but it's an exorbitant amount, because they're concerned, they said about insurance and, but I just thought I'd mention that in case anybody, especially I was thinking with you, Ed, in case we really have to look for an alternate plan if that comes this way. Because that's where they go for Memorial Day, that's where they go for
Yeah.
everything. so.
Which company was that?
National Grid.
Oh, good thing we have Eversource.
We
and
do, but
Verizon,
a lot
so-
of times when one of them does it,
No, no, I
then the
understand.
others
Yeah.
follow suit. So I thought I'd mention that might be something to look forward to.
Sure. Do you have anything else
I'm good.
for anybody? Marlene, did you have anything else that we skipped over inadvertently? Because we were hopping around a little bit as far as the
No, I
agenda
think
goes.
we have covered everything.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John.